This is a Merrick Studios podcast. This week on Two Mothers, One Aché.
But for me, more than the general connection to transformation, Seaway was so passionate about insects and butterflies in particular, and that transformation, and going through a project with a friend in science and watching it go from the chrysalis to the caterpillar to the butterfly, like really trailing these things in science. It was her passion. So she was my butterfly.
Welcome to Two Mothers, One Aché, a grief dialogue. I'm Dionne.
And I'm Yvette. We're mothers, friends, and sisters in grief.
I lost my daughter, Seaway, at 15 years old.
And I lost my son, Dasan, at 26.
This podcast is our space to talk about grief, how it shapes us, how it lingers, and how love carries us through. Welcome to the conversation.
Hey, football fans, you could win a once-in-a-lifetime trip to the 2026 Pro Football Hall of Fame enshrinement events, in person, in Canton. How do you kick this off? Grab Snapdragon apples at your local store, then go to snapdragonapple.com for official rules and enter. No purchase necessary. Ends February 28th, 2026. Open to U.S. residents 18 and older. Void where prohibited.
Hey, girl, hey.
Oh, hi. I'm still adjusting everything over here.
Stop adjusting. Todo tan perfecto. You're perfect. Lord, today.
Let's get to it, D, because I'm very excited about today's topic. So can we breathe so we can get to it?
Yes, ma'am. And I want you to hear the esthetician rushing the yoga teacher into the breathing. Okay? I mean, that seems counterintuitive, but we're going to go with it because I love her. So our friends at home, if you're new to us, we begin with breathing. We want to center ourselves. We're in physical different places, but we can connect through our breath. So we're going to do a deep grounding breath together. I love to close my eyes. I have a hand on my heart, hand on my belly. If you are driving, you know the rules. Keep your eyes open, but you can breathe with us. So inhale through your nostrils. Hold for 2, and gently exhale through your mouth. Just a couple more times. Inhale, hold, exhale. Almost there. Inhalation, hold, sigh it out. Last time, in, hold it in. Exhale, sigh it out. And if you close your eyes, you can gently open them. And all right, are you good now, Evie?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm going to tell you something. I bet you that when folks listen to us, when the people at home are listening to, it's probably the only time of day that they're going to actually have intentional breath.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm just going to make a bet.
Yeah,
right?
Unless they're yoga teachers like me, unless you're doing yoga, yeah, that's it.
Oh, well, some sort of wellness practice and, the alternative space. But yeah, absolutely. I tell you, today's subject, I am so excited, guys. D, we're today going to discuss grief and the afterlife.
Uh-huh.
You all know, I mean, if you haven't gathered by now, I'm I'm a student of spiritism.
She woo-woo.
I'm very woo-woo. I also have a great respect for religions and different lineages of belief. And I'm very excited about this topic because, hopefully everyone who's listening will give themselves permission to travel into this realm with us today, right?
I mean, and there are things. Let's go. I agree. Yes, and I'm gonna go yes, and because even if they're not giving themselves permission, everybody's been exposed at some point. When we think of the movies we've watched, the dreams we've had, or dreams we've heard about other people having, and different signs, something we'll be like, oh, that was so weird. I don't believe that this just happened. Or, like there's so many things. There are countless books about things where people report spiritual experiences after loss. So instead of going, oh, that was so weird, you can embrace it. And that's what you're saying, Yvette, about giving yourself permission, because we've all been exposed, even if it's just from the movies we've seen. There's been some deep level of exposure.
That's right. Like, I want to invite everyone to don't talk yourself out of the experiences that you've had, right? Don't talk yourself out of believing in the experiences that you've had. So, in today's topic about grief in the afterlife, and you touched upon this, you talked about dreams and signs and spiritual experiences that many of us go through, and we write it off as coincidence, or we write it off as strange or weird and stuff like that. And I love that you made mention to a movie, like movies, seeing it in movies, because I would love to quote a movie. It's one of my favorite movies, Wakanda Forever, part of the MCU series, Black Panther series. So in this scene, Queen Ramonda is a year after T'Challa's passing. And Queen Ramonda, it takes Shuri to this beach, and they're doing a burning ceremony, which is something that you have touched upon several times, that you really enjoy that experience.
Yeah.
And Queen Ramonda says, I found your brother in the breeze, pushing me gently but firm, like his hand on my shoulder. It took some time, but he was there. And then Shuri, being the scientist, the engineer, the extreme genius, technological genius that she is, responds with, he wasn't there, Mother. The presence that you felt was just a construct of your mind, brought on so you can feel some comfort or joy. That's okay.
You're going to have to send that to me. Oh, wow. That was so beautiful. Girl, y'all need to understand, Evie be sneaking stuff on me. It's like, do not think that this is scripted. There's some notes, but she be sneaking stuff on me. And I love that movie, and I absolutely remember it. And I got all the tingles and chills when you read that, because I could see the scene. I was talking about that with my niece the other day. When we play the music, it brings back these things. So we were going through the sound of music, and I was listening to things. And we need to do an entire thing on movies and grief, because The Sound of Music is an entire movie about grief.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that. And oftentimes when we're talking about grief, you and I tackle the subject from the perspective of how can we survive. We give a lot of tools on how to survive, how to get through it, how to, work with, alongside of grief.
Every day.
But people also ask, where do they go? Are they still around us? Is that my beloved that I'm feeling in my heart when my hairs stand on edge? Right. And then people really do start to ask about an afterlife. And for many of us, we've touched on this before. There's no, in America, there's no like cultural one set, one size fits all cultural understanding of grief, death, or even the afterlife.
Well, yeah. I mean, almost every culture believes that the relationship does not end when someone dies. And where we are in this modern grief space, that topic is avoided because, similar to what you said about Shuri in Wakanda on Black Panther movie, she's grounded in science, and she's like, yeah, nah, ma, you made that up. That's not real. So in looking at what's real, but the constructs, what her mom said, the constructs of your mind are real. But because we've become so grounded in reality, what we can touch, what we can feel, what we can embrace
The 3D. That's what
Yeah.
spiritists refer to as people who believe in the
Ah,
realms. We call this existence the 3D.
okay. So yeah, people are so deeply grounded in the science of the 3D, they're embarrassed. And I mean, I don't feel that way because there's something. When are the movies, that movie, every movie we've seen all of our lives, the classics, even going beyond that, the stuff from the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, right? People made those things up from the construct of their mind because they experienced it. It came from somewhere. So I don't know why. Why do you think people feel embarrassed or unsafe talking about it? Because we talk about this stuff all the time and it's not new. It's new that it's on a podcast. So why do you think people feel embarrassed by that?
I mean, somewhere, well, I also have quite a vast knowledge of uh, politics
Mm,
and
mm.
how people act within political constructs and just the idea of being able to control the masses. And so somewhere along the way, um, it I would imagine it would disempower the empowered to allow people to understand that there is um an entire realm of life that continues to exist, because then it would lessen the amount of power. If more people had faith in that, then it would lessen the experience, right? Or the control and experience within the 3D. That's kind of my short-ended
No, but
perspective on that.
that is a wonderful short answer. And you have me like my face, like I'm in all these places because there are things that I say, and I think I might be misquoting. I think it was Maya Angelou, but I think Maya Angelou talks about like I walk with the strength of my ancestors, of like 4,000 ancestors deep. And then what one of my girlfriends used to say, being a football person, talking to one of my children who would like give her beef and trouble, different story. But she was like, you're just looking at me, but my bench is deep. And I
Mm.
was like, what are you talking about? And she's talking about football. She's like, my bench is deep. My bench is deep. So you need to understand. And like, so she was really flexing on my
Yeah.
youngest son, who was always trying to flex on people, and was like, bruh.
I just told somebody yesterday I have an army of ancestors. Like if you think of like the biggest army, that's who I'm walking and who walks in step with me. Like there's no doubt in my mind. And listen, this might be a little too woo-woo for folks who have who follow a particular religion, particularly Christianity. And so I came across something. Paul in the Bible, Paul describes in Corinthians 15:44.
Hmm.
Paul describes it is sown a natural body. That's our material body, right? It
Mm-hmm.
is sown a natural body. It is raised a spiritual body.
Mm,
Which
mm,
where does that spiritual body exist
mm.
when the natural body is gone?
Right, right, right.
Okay?
All the information is there. That good book tells a lot of good stories. So yes, thank you for finding that scripture.
I love that. That good book has a lot of good stories. And
Mm-hmm.
but just like you're going back to your question, right? Why is it that people, have kind of disconnected from that reality,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Or, and I think that at a certain point it's disadvantageous
Oh, yeah, I got
to
you.
to the empowered, and I might have just made up my own word, I don't know. To the empowered, for us to retain a certain belief system.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, it makes me think of a book. It was I think it was an Elizabeth Gilbert book, Commitment, before she married her ex-husband. She went through this whole thing of understanding the importance of marriage, and she learned like marriage was not something that the church always believed in because it didn't want you to have a partner that you could confide in. It didn't want conversations and a power structure outside of the church. So
Mm.
it was the fact, and I'm pretty sure now I'm like looking at my bookshelf, like, where's that book? But it was one of the chapters where she talks about it. So what you said makes sense to me. It was like, no, don't believe in those ancestors are still around. They are gone. They've gone on to an afterlife. They're doing their own things because you don't it's minimizing that source of power for us
Right.
because it creates because even as I said it and went that 4,000 ancestors deep, like I got chills and I can think of the loved ones that I light candles for, that I speak their names, that I look at them and see their birthdays, the pictures I have around my house, the stories I remember. And I'm like, all of those people are rooting for me? You don't stand a chance.
I have a question for you though.
Yeah.
You and I are always helping our family at the table here, helping them to navigate grief. Do you think that believing in the afterlife, believing that the spirit of our loved ones lives on, do you think that that's us, to Shuri's point, right? Is that of us avoiding grief? Is that us, let's see, I'm going to quote her again. Is that a construct of our mind that will bring us some comfort or joy? But at the crux of my question is, are we avoiding grief by seeking answers to where do they go after here?
I'm gonna give you the yes and again because I was like yes and because it was like I don't like the word avoiding, but I get what you're saying because I say, as you always when you quote me, it was like I lean into it. I'm leaning into this experience in the construct of my mind, knowing the powers of my mind, knowing the powers of our memories and our love for our loved ones, that we're leaning into the grief and we're allowing this new expanded way of being and connecting with something that is no longer in the 3D. Because what I often say is like, there's so much I would give y'all. There's so much I would give to have another hug. I am a huggy, touchy, feely person. Like, so that last hug, my daughter was in a funky mood that last day and I couldn't approach her. I might have got bit. So I was like, I wish I had gotten one more hug. But the experiences, the fact that, did I tell you the story about the butterfly?
Please tell all of us the story about the butterfly because I got butterfly stories too. So let's start getting into it. Let's start sharing some of our experiences after the passing of our beloveds that we were like, hold on.
Yeah.
That is not a coincidence. And after you tell me the story, after you tell us the story, Dee, would you also kind of go a little step further and explain to us how that made you feel? Did it give you expansion? Did it give you comfort? Did it bring you joy? Or did it scare you?
Okay, so we're going to go with the butterfly story and answer that because now you brought up another story and I want to hear yours. So you ultimately asked me, like, are these things real or imagined in Shuri's words, right? And I do think they're real, but I think grief expands our capacity to see things beyond the 3D because it now opens up in us such a deep desire to reach our people because we cannot touch them in the 3D. So I think that there's an existence that was always there, but we didn't need to tap into it. So now with losing a loved one, it's like, okay, I'm grasping at straws. And so our brain is malleable. It expands and it opens up this capacity. Science talks about the part of our brain and so much of our brain that's not being used. And so the grief helps us expand into another part that helps us reach beyond the 3D. So the day, Saturday, July 9th, 2011, we're sitting in the, cemeterium, moratorium. I don't even know what we call the place. We're sitting in the place before the people get buried. Yep. And they're doing this last prayer. And we didn't open it to everyone at the homegoing ceremony. We wanted it to just be immediate family. So it was less than 10 people there. Me and my kids, my mom, my sister, very few people. And the woman up front from the funeral home. She's saying whatever she's saying, and my eyes are closed, my head is down, and I hear, so I pop my eyes open, because if somebody gasps, again, you know where we from. If you gasping, I need to look around and see what's going, what happened?
Yes, I understand.
So someone gasps. It was my mom, and I pick my head up and I look, and she goes, "A butterfly just went past your cheek." And then I looked up and I saw it flying off, and I was like, "I see you, Seaway. I see you." And butterflies, yes, they're signs of transformation, but I would have to send you a picture. Well, you've been to my house, but there's a picture that's up in my dining room, and it's framed butterflies, because not only was my daughter, I call her my butterfly, my black butterfly, she had such a passion for butterflies. She had, like, she would follow them. She would read about them. I had a butterfly book on the table. We'd have to go to the butterfly exhibit. So she was always in this. And then when she died, the book, the butterfly table book that I still have, and I looked into it and I read it, I learned that butterflies have a very short lifespan.
Yes.
And my daughter died at 15, and I was like, and I thought of all these different ways that she was trying to let me know, I'm not going to be here. So that's my initial butterfly story. But for me, more than the general connection to transformation, Seaway was so passionate about insects and butterflies in particular, and that transformation, and going through a project with a friend in science and watching it go from the chrysalis to the caterpillar to the butterfly, like really trailing these things in science. It was her passion. So she was my butterfly, and she did fly away from me at 15. So that was that first story. The second part of your question, you asked me, how did it make me feel? I felt connected. I felt like, okay, I see you. I looked at it flying away, and it was like my heart was like, all right, my girl is still sending messages. And I'll tell you the 11/11 story now later, but there are things that tie specifically to us and our conversations. Yeah, it made me feel good.
Before I get into my story, and I have I have a memoir full of them. Let's just be absolutely clear. I have one quick question. Did Seaway's passing give you a different, like, were you, after Seaway's passing, were you more open to these signs? Because I'm sure that Seaway's not the first beloved that you lost, that you experienced their loss, right? Up close and personal. But was it the catalyst for you to be like, wait, hold on. Now I can really see the breadth of of where she is. Like, I can feel this different level of energy. Was it
Yes,
different for
yes,
Seaway?
and no. That one's I feel like that's complicated. But I say yes and no, because I was already there, because I'm the woo-woo one in my family. I'm the unicorn. Like, I literally have a button. Today I have on a tab for New York, but I have another button that says, yes, I'm a unicorn, because I see these things like, yes, like this makes sense to me. But then on the flip side, it was just the grasping, the need to be clear in the world, like, this is who I am. Y'all can call me crazy. Y'all could do whatever you want. And even quite often in New York, like when I'm looking at people in these New York streets and they're talking to somebody I can't see, I'm not assuming they're not talking to somebody.
Sis, yes. I think it goes back to, and just to close that part of it up, I wrote down what you said, and verbatim, you said, it opens a desire to reach our loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
Signs, right? We have this deep desire. I mean, you talked about hugs. My God, Dasan had the longest arms. And it felt like he could just completely wrap his arms around me twice, right? Like his arms were just so long and his body was just so skinny.
He's so little.
And so it was just like, but it felt like a bear hug, right? Even though it was more like a scarecrow hug, it felt like a bear hug. And I would give anything to feel his hug again.
Yeah.
So Aché to that point specifically. Now I have a bunch. Dasan passed away like Seaway in June. And so the butterflies are out. They're out and about, right? And so fast forward to October 2021. So let's do the math. July, August, September, 4 months after Dasan passed away. And for those of you on the, on the Northeast, you already know this, like our falls are way milder than they used to be.
Right.
And so I'm driving to the plant store. I've talked about how plants have been a very useful and important tool in my grief toolbox, right? And so I'm driving to the plant store, and I'm having a conversation with Dasan. I'm in the car by myself, music's off. This is not strange for me. I'm one of those people that you see talking, and I'm talking to somebody. In this instance, I was talking to Dasan. And so I said, Dasan, winter's coming, fall is coming. The butterflies, they go away. What am I going to do? Where am I going to get my signals from? Where am I going to get now that the butterflies will be leaving? Stay with me on this one, okay? Go into the plant store. I was going to get some succulents. I wanted, this is a massive plant store that we have out here in Jersey, and they have a section for all of the succulents. So I beelined it straight there. When I get to the now I'm focused down on the succulent. Which succulent am I going to pick up, right? And I'm looking, and Dasan's voice comes in, and it says, "Look up." So I look up, and when I tell you, there was a wind chime, like this beautiful metal arrangement of butterflies. It looks like hangers, almost like, like clothes hangers.
Yeah.
And they're all attached by these little these metal strings. And then there's a cacophony of butterflies.
Ay, qué dulce.
And I was like, oh, I'm taking that. Because that was my answer.
Yeah.
And now it sits above my altar. And in the winter months, right now we're in winter, there are no butterflies around. And all I have to do is look up.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah. And so.
But wait, I want to interject something that you said that was really important, is that you were sitting and talking to him and you asked a question. Because what I often hear or see from people, clients, friends, students, yoga students, people ask questions. And this even goes with us in real life, 3D humans. People ask questions and do not listen for the answers.
Right. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, and I'm probably going to say it a bunch of times while our podcast is in motion. Prayer is speaking to God or to the spirit realm, and meditation is listening.
Aché.
The two practices go hand in hand. You can't just sit there and be like, oh, I'm praying, and that's you listening to yourself talk, right? At a certain point, if you don't stop to listen to the answers and you don't put yourself into practice so you can hear the answers, okay? Now, I'm a practicing medium. I've said this before. And when I say practicing medium, I'm also learning how to be an effective medium. This isn't just you wake up today and, you're able to do all the things that a powerful medium can do, because that's not it. You have to really practice at this. Just like you have to practice at yoga. You have to practice at meditation. These are practices.
Yes.
And so I have opened myself up, surrendered myself from the confinement of what my brain or what I have been taught, right? In terms of what's coincidence, what's not, what's projecting, what's imagery, that the 3D imagery. And I've done the practice of getting out of that headspace and into my heart center space.
I love that.
That's where my communication, the chakras say that that our crown is our direct connection to spirit, right? But how does your crown communicate? It really doesn't. It's like the processing system, right? So it receives, and then it has to really go into these other chakra spaces. And for me, my communication 100% with spirit happens from my heart space, not from my mind.
What I love about what you just said, it created another visual for me when you talked about the crown chakra. And I also was like, yes, went to the hand of the head. It had this aha moment of babies. Whether you have given birth to a baby, seen a baby, we are all aware of this openness, of this open quote, where people say the hole in the top of the head, where their brain has not fully closed yet. People are telling you to be so careful, don't touch that area, to keep it protected and whatnot. And not until you just said that. And in my yoga room, next to my yoga mat, I have crystals, and they're the colors of the 7 chakras. And to be clear, folks, you know this, Evie, there are way more than 7 chakras. We're highlighting 7 chakras as common. Here in my dining room area, I have on a broom closet the colors of the chakras hanging, and just different colors. So to understand now, to have this aha moment now, that these babies come in with the crown chakra so open, we as the adults, the humans tasked with protecting them until it closes. And then, like, what does that mean that they have this direct connection with spirit because this crown chakra is open as an infant and then it closes? So I'm just having this whole mental experience of, how does this relate?
Right. And listen, I can get very woo-woo with it, right? And I'm just going to put this out there. Why do you think that in the process of that closing up, right, that tethering, that connection to the spirit world, right, to source, while that is open, why do you think that babies do not have language?
Ooh, girl. That was, I never even thought about that.
As it closes, they gain language.
So, and we also talk about, so many things that different spiritualists or different books will say, we're not learning things, we're remembering.
We're
remembering.
That's right.
So there, the closing is the forgetting and releasing that connection. So it's like there's an open connection, and then as it closes, it's like, okay. And so now that this is closed, now I've got to use this. I've got to use my mouth. I've got to use words to communicate. And I don't have the language just yet. And the longer it takes for them to get the language, they don't have the ability to share what was from the other side, the other realm, the other world.
That's right.
So, wow, I just never, ever thought about that. That's why, and I shouldn't say every, most humans are so entranced with babies and new life coming, because it's like, oh my God, there's this whole special magical being coming from sight unseen, the magic of creation, the magic of them coming. What will we learn from them? And then we don't listen to them.
How many children have imaginary friend.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that we could take a lesson from the babes in this case, you know. However, that I think I want to switch gears just a little bit.
Okay.
We talk about how grief makes people feel vulnerable as it is, right? And then throwing something in like woo-woo thinking, spiritual thinking, right? Magical thinking.
Well, I love that you
Can
said
we-
magical thinking because one of my favorite books, I think I've mentioned it to you before. I don't know that I've mentioned it on our show. Joan Didion, after losing her husband,
Yes.
her book was The Year of Magical Thinking. And it's not particularly spiritual, but she really just goes into she didn't know she was in a fog. She didn't know her thinking was altered because we, the humans, the 3D body, were going through our experience and acknowledging the days. And it's like, oh, for you, which we've shared, it's the 11th of the month again. Or, oh, it is the anniversary again. It's the birthday again. It's the thing again. So, and you notice you go through that first year without them. So grief, I think vulnerability is a superpower, but grief makes people open, vulnerable, willing. As you grasp at straws, it's like it makes non-believers believers because you're grasping. So it's like I'm gonna reach into the magical thinking that exists. I'm gonna expand the capacity of my brain beyond the 3D. I'm gonna look beyond what my eyes can see and the 3D and expand into the magical thinking, not as for me, I'll say, not as an escape, but as a way to ground, to connect what is no longer in the 3D, to connect that when I went to sleep and I had a dream, that it was a connection to my loved one. It was a connection to a memory. It was a sign to give me hope. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do something. I'm not feeling like it's possible. My brain cannot fathom, like, I'm in the lowest of low. I don't know how I'm going to make it. And it's like, and then there's this memory that comes up, seemingly out of nowhere. A song comes on out of nowhere.
And we'll be right back.
Welcome to Merrick Studios, where stories take the mic and culture comes alive.
We're not just a network, we're family, bringing you smart, soulful, unfiltered conversations.
In this season, we're bringing the heat with our biggest lineup yet. Whatever you're into, music, sports, business, we got you covered.
Merrick Studios, where the conversation starts and keeps going.
Check out our full lineup, including Unglossy with Bun B, Jeffrey Sledge, and myself, Tom Frank. Now streaming at wearemerrickstudios.com.
Master the art of lyricism with Pendulum Mink, the first school for rap. Learn elite techniques through immersive lessons, real-world exercises, and guidance from hip-hop icons. This is where MCs sharpen their skills and glow boldly on the mic. Ready to level up? Visit pendulummink.com and start your journey today.
And now, back to the show.
Should we give folks a cautionary tale? Could we get too obsessed with it? Could we become too dependent on the signs where we're like, we can't move without it? Is that a situation, you think?
I want to hear what you say. I think yes. I can't think of an example per se, but I can think in my experience of certain people where there's a balance. The entire world we live in is a delicate balance of seen and unseen. And in order to maintain the human experience, to maintain the levels of, like you and I say, like, we like nice things. You want to be around, you want to do things to be a certain way. I guess the cautionary tale is to find a way to maintain or achieve the balance between the two. Because
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I'll tell you, I'll go back to, if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't feel good, probably out of balance.
Uh-huh.
Feels good. If it makes you feel good, right? it's funny because I'm going to go back to Wakanda Forever just for this one point. And after Shuri tells her mother, it was brought on so you can feel some comfort or joy, that's all. And Queen Ramonda comes back to her and says, well, tell me about your feelings. Like, when you think about your brother, does that bring you joy, or does it keep you in this place of, of not feeling well? I can't remember the exact quote, right? Torment. I think she used the word torment. Or does it, when you think about your brother, does it bring you joy, or does it torment you? Okay. And so in that, I'd ask the same thing, right? I'd ask you to ask yourself the same thing. When you think about your beloved and where they are, or what the signs are, or whatever, if you get to that place where, to your point, your desire to see them or experience them becomes overwhelming, that it becomes torment. Okay. Then I would say exercise a cautionary tale in those moments. Because, these signs are truly, they're supposed to be, signs of light.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And they're supposed to make us feel connected to that place. And for the novice who is not a medium, right? One would want to ensure that what you're feeling is a being of light, and most particularly an ancestor or your beloved that has passed. And so I would say that one of the things that, when it comes to grief and the afterlife, one of the things that we should add to our grief toolbox, and I'm going to go back to journaling, because journaling is super important in these moments, right?
Yeah.
Write down what you've noticed, what you're feeling around that, like, that sign. How were you feeling before and then after the sign? Try to jot down like the date and time. Really not for you to decode the meaning.
No.
Say it's about you getting connected with the feeling that you're receiving from it, and eventually you'll start to notice patterns, right?
Yeah.
So going back to something that you said earlier, took lots of notes today.
I saw you writing.
You said you talked about the passion, that Sue had a passion for butterflies. Well, we need to pay particular attention to the patterns surrounding the passions of our beloveds that have passed away. I'll give an instance. I'll give a story.
Okay.
Dasan was a musician.
I kept waiting for you to mention that, because I want to tell the people that they need to go listen to our trailer, our intro and outro again. But go ahead.
Go ahead. Tell them. Yeah. So Dasan was a musician, and he had been working on this album, and he has files and files and files. And Chris came one day and said, I want to put Dasan's album out this year. It was a year after he had passed away. And, we knew that he was working on this project, and so many, like, he was really building a name for himself in this particular community of musicians. And he had some really great, he had a really great community of artists that he was building with, right? And they all came to me afterwards and was like, oh my God, I love Dasan, and, all the music, and we were working on this and that. And so Chris and I were, really, because he was determined, even though his parents are music executives, he was determined to do this on his own. He put so much of his energy, right? This was his creative energy. As as children of God, we are creators. God is a creator, and we are made in God's image. And this is what I believe. And so we are all creators. And when we tap into that creative energy, we are tapping into God energy. Okay. So he had all of this music. And so we started talking to Ren, my daughter in love, and we were like, Ren, can you access, his files? And she was like, I don't know. I can't. I'm trying not to lock myself out. Like, I don't know what password. Like, I'm stuck on the password. And the voice came in. It's my password that I had, that I've always had, is what I heard. And I was like, it can't be. Like, it can't be. Right. And so I, being the mom that I am, I don't know about how anybody else is a mama, but I would keep these. Like if I got a glimpse at a passcode or a password, listen, I would tuck it away. Not that I'm going to be the nosy mama, because I give my children their space and their freedom and their privacy, but you never know.
Listen,
baby, I went and I grabbed that password and I was like, try this, Ren. You know that password worked? He had that password since he was about 12 years old.
Aww.
Okay. I mean,
I'm sorry. Cautionary tale to all y'all adults out there, don't do that. But I'm glad it worked for you. But cautionary tale, in the year of 2026, don't do that. Girl.
Right. But I was like, wait. And all the files opened, D. And then we were able to put his album out. And we have access to all of his music now and all the things. But when I tell you, I had forgotten about that password.
Of course.
And even in the process, listen, even in the process of making the album, like everything just, like Ren all of a sudden started finding notes, sequencing of the songs, what songs he wanted to use. Like he had full instructions on what he wanted done with this project.
Wow.
We just had to follow his instructions.
And they can still listen to it on Spotify.
And they can still listen to Spotify. And every time that they turn on our episode and if they watch our episode all the way through to the end credits, you're hearing some music, original music by Dionne. So I say that to
even I want you to listen till to the end, but to be clear with the listeners and Yvette, our intro and our outro are all music from Dionne, and it is so perfect. All of you have been listening to it, even if you just watch the intro. And if you fast forward, the music is his, and his wife, Ren, found it, and it was magical how it happened. So I love going back to
the passion. Right? Yes. Going back to the passions, like they will give us signs, and I'll wrap this part of the segment up with this.
Yes.
They will give us signs that lead us, particularly in places that they had passions, because and the reason why, I can even give you a reason why, it's because it has their energetic and creative DNA on it.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. That makes absolute sense. And like even the process, and now that you said that, for me thinking, because I also love tarot cards, like I dabble, I play, no one can hire me for a reading, but for myself, when I look at them, the card, like the death card, for those of you, if you don't know tarot cards, people are so fearful of death, the word death, the concept death, but the death card, and I think it's the number 13, don't quote me on that one, but the death card is transformation. So it's not a bad thing. So even in that, in the spiritual realm of, right, of the afterlife and of my daughter's passion with butterflies, it's like, I am not gone. I have transformed. I have moved from one realm to another realm. I am here. And in addition to that, and then I want to see where you go with it, because we can talk about this forever. And thinking about the grief toolkit is choosing the items, because I think in order to keep our loved ones close, we tend to keep a million things. So what I put on, you can't see it, Evie, but for folks at home, like it's a ring. because I saved some jewelry, I saved some clothing. Believe it or not, my daughter and I were the same size. So I saved things of hers that I kept, that I wore. It's been so long, I've had to get rid of some things. But the jewelry, of course, I have. So this is a ring with 2 hearts on it, because she also loved hearts and the shape of hearts. So I'm wearing a ring that was hers, and that's a way to keep her with me. But in terms of cautionary tales and staying in the living world, it is not ideal. It is not suggested to keep everything that our loved one had. There are things that we need to let go of. There are energies that we need to let go of. They may have had habits that were not the best habits that we should not emulate. So there are certain things that we want to hold on to and certain things we want to let go of in terms of that transformation and being connected to them. So I say all that in that I'll keep the energy of the butterfly and the transformation, because there's so many levels and aspects to it, and understanding like there's a calling, the migration that the butterflies do, or that you're called, and to be pulled into that thing and to follow it to the end, regardless if you're following your calling. That was important to me.
Yeah.
Seaway and I would have our, go ahead.
I want to talk about dreams and visitations.
Because,
this is something also that I believe comes from the afterlife, right?
Yeah.
And comes from the realm of the spirits. And so, when we dream, we go into the REM. Now, most people, well, now I can't say most. I can't speak for most people. I can speak about what I believe. I
Okay.
believe when we are asleep, there is a portal that's opened for us to go into what I refer to as the in-between. It's
Yes.
between our 3D existence, and it's between the spirit world, right? We're not allowed to go to the spirit realm until we have passed away and our souls have transitioned. Again, transformation transitioned, right? And in this space, I believe this is where we have dreams and interaction with the spirit realm. Talk to me about maybe and also the spirits can visit us in that space, right? We can visit spirits can visit us. Have you had any dreams that stood out to you that you were like, whoa, that was pretty profound? I remember it like it was as if, what I hear a lot of it, that dream was as if it was real, like it was happening in real time. Have you ever had any of those experiences? And talk to us about it if you have.
So I'm going to go yes and no, because I have been a person most of my life, I'm going to say, well, most of my adult life, that does not dream. So when I have a dream, I wake up in shock, like, what? I had a dream. And then I'm like trying to write it down real quick or tell somebody really quick because I don't remember them. So what I find happens more often to people that are my loved ones in the circle, something like you or others. I can think of a particular friend just had a birthday, Nafisa, Reverend Nafisa, I call her Mama Nafisa. But she had a dream, because she meditates frequently, that she saw my daughter in the arms of a particular guru. And it was within the first year. And so she told me. So there are other people. So Seaway's like, my damn mama, her head is so hard, she ain't listening. So she'll send me signs, but they're not while sleeping. And there are things that we argued about, or things, and because I am not going to fantasize the memory, because she was a pain in the ass and a brilliant creative. So the things that we disagreed and argued about, and one of them was 1111. So and just a repeating cycle of numbers, because 1111 was the one she was into. And I would be like, well, what about 1010? What about 555? What about 444? What about 222? And she would get passionately angry. If I were her age, she'd probably want to haul off and slap me, because I was just being a pain in the ass. And I'm just like, well, all the numbers are repeating. She's like, no, but it's 11. So it's a power number, and it's 11, and it's 11. So it's that one. So every time I see 1111, and I did see it, while we were on, and it comes up, it's like in my brain, it's like, hey, Seaway. And sometimes I will bother her when I'll see T222. And it's like, well, what about 222? And it's to be like, Ma, because it's an ongoing argument that continues, 14 years later after her passing, because of that. And in different stories.
those repeating numbers, they're called angel numbers for a reason, right?
Okay.
And so
Okay.
they carry a certain frequency from the spirit realm.
Huh.
And they mean different things. So like repeating nines is like the ending of a cycle. The repeating ones is the beginning of a new cycle. And they cover, oh my gosh, like repeating eights is abundance. So that there's meanings to these repeating numbers, but
Hmm.
the idea or the thought behind it is that that's a frequency that's carried in the spirit realm, and so they are now dubbed angel numbers, and so they are there to send us specific messages. So I love that your visitations with Seaway come in the form of angel numbers. I
Yeah.
want to talk a little bit about dreams, right? And so
Okay.
um,
Because you're a big dreamer.
I'm a big
You
dreamer.
travel.
I don't remember everything, but the dreams that I do remember, that I'm allowed to remember, because I believe that there's also those of us who are trauma stricken, right? A lot of times we seek like healing in that space, but it could be a little sketchy sometimes. And I think for our protection, a lot of times we're not able to see certain things, but
Mm.
that's off
Mm.
topic. And
Mm.
so, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, Margarita Ganino, who we've brought her name into Aché in the past. She I'm very, very close to her. Not just I believe in this life, but like many lives. And um she started to come to me in dreams very soon after
Hmm.
very soon after she passed away. The
Hmm.
first time, but she doesn't come frequently. She
Mhm.
literally only comes when I'm desperate, when I'm in a desperate state. She comes and she gives me great joy and comfort. And so the first
Mm.
dream that I ever had with her, it was a few weeks after she passed away. And this is a woman who took care of me when my mother couldn't, because my mother was
Mhm. Mhm.
riddled with addiction and all the things. And I'm in this room. I'm going to describe this dream. It's actually extremely beautiful. So I'm in this room. It's very white. The room
Mhm.
has nothing on the walls. The light is really bright in there, and there are rows of chairs.
Mm.
And then there's like a long table covered in white. And then there are people on that side. So think of it like a dais, right? And then so
Uh-huh.
there's people on one side of the dais, and then there's an audience.
Mhm.
I was part of the audience. My grandmother was behind the white table. Now, if you know anything about spiritism, la mesa blanca is um a term for mediums. You do
Mhm.
your work as a medium at the white table. I didn't know
Mhm.
this back then. I
Oh,
was
wow.
I was 20, let's see.
You were a baby. Go ahead.
I was like 21 years old. I couldn't have been no more than that, right? So I didn't know any of this. So I go up to the table and I go to hug her, and she pulled back.
Huh?
And she was a younger version of herself. And this is another thing. She never talks to me by using her mouth. She speaks to me telepathically in these dreams.
Hmm.
And I don't know about you, but I see a blinking on my light. So like
Yeah.
they also like, mess
Communicate in
around with
light. Yes.
technology.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so they're here anyway. So I go to hug her, and she moves back, and she tells me, you can't cross this line.
Huh. Huh.
And she said, I will always be with you, always and forever.
Mm. Mm.
Te adoro.
Mm.
I adore you. And then
Mm.
and then I woke up from that dream. And I'll tell you, she probably has come to me uh 4 times in my life. One time when I hear ringing in my ear. So
Hmm.
my right ear, I'm receiving. Um so she's come to me like when I had miscarriages, when Desan passed away,
Mm.
other very desperate moments in
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
life. And
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
always comes and she gives me the message that I need to hear. And I always wake up feeling so much better afterward.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
I want to say like there's a tool in that for us. Okay. And this is like this tool can be called the ancestor check-in.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because what I wanted to add to, I guess the same tool, a different tool in terms of the ancestor check-in, because y'all know, I think everybody knows now, if you've been watching us for a while, Evie and I love candles. We love nature, flowers and plants. And so I love candle gazing. So you'll see a candle behind me, and it's also behind a picture of my family. So my daughter's in it. But just giving them light, la luz. What did you say though? You taught me something another episode. La luz, ¿qué?
Luz y progreso.
Luz y progreso. Light and progress. Light and progress. So in terms of continuing this relationship and continuing them as a part of the ancestral check-in, the light. And there's so many things I learned from other people because I grow up doing things, not knowing why I'm doing them, which is sort of like ancestral communication as well, because it's in our DNA somewhere that it's like, oh, I need to have their picture and give them light. I'm giving them light. And I don't know why. I don't know what it's doing, but that can be a silent conversation. It doesn't have to be long, a short visit, a short question, a pause. So like when I light the candle in front of my daughter's picture, because right now this particular area has Godfather Philip, friend Sherry, and Seaway, and I'll put the picture there, and it's just like, I love you, or I see you, or sharing in that memory of something special, another place in the house, the picture, but the light. And I also say water, but maybe that's a lot for people.
Yeah.
But if you want to, just a light and water, but just something like there. For my son's father, there's always a cigar. So it's just a little something, so those can be an ancestral check-in.
I just got turned on to these 20-minute meditation lights, candles, like 20-minute meditation candles.
What is this?
They're like literally this big, and they burn for 20 minutes. And I was like, this is so genius for somebody like me who can't sustain a meditation practice. I could be consistent with a meditation practice, but I can't sustain one for a really long time.
Got you.
And so like I will candle gaze, like you said, and it's my visitation time.
I love that. I gotta find these candles.
Yeah, and I love it. And to your point, the water might be a little too much for folks, but you know what I do? I take a shot glass and I fill a shot glass with some water and with my 20-minute candle, and I sit there and I just allow for, like you said, this is my time. What do you do when you visit with somebody, right? You're conversing, you're having an exchange. And so I try to do that. And I think that, in terms of trying to make sense of the signs in your process of, and I'm looking down for my notes, in your desire to reach your loved one.
Yeah. Well, I love that as a toolkit. And I'm always learning from you because I love the journaling. I love the conversation. I love how you talked about it as a journal of signs and tracking, because something that I feel as a coach, as a yoga teacher, a dancer, a choreography, that you can only follow what you track. Right? So you won't notice things. So the fact that you're doing that, and I'm aware of the signs, but I don't write them down. So that's something new for me to incorporate, and it will help me slow down as a busybody. And I also have a small journal that I carry with me because I'm so big into journaling. And it's a little one. I literally have it in front of me now. So it's an itty bitty one from the dollar store that has different sections in it. My pen is already there. So if I'm running out in the street and I need to write something down, so the sign, this can be a section, can be the sign journal. And what we just talked about with the dreams, the visitation and writing them down, the ancestor check-in. What I want to close out with before, we wrap up, but I want to bring in boundaries, because we've talked about boundaries in a whole lot of different areas. And you started to lean into it a little bit when you talked about visitations, and you said making sure that it is the energy of your loved one. So the movie that I think of with that is an old one with Demi Moore and Whoopi Goldberg, and it was Ghosts. And For those of you younger folks, you might have never heard of the movie, but Whoopi Goldberg was young and she was a medium, and people that had gone on, ancestors, she could hear them. She could see them. So you remember the horror. This is not a horror film. So it's not I See Dead People, but it was like, but it became overwhelmed when she would hear things and you'd see her in her comedic Whoopi Goldberg fashion. It was like, what? Huh? What are you talking about? And
By
people
the way,
around,
I do that too. I'd be like, who are you? What are you doing here?
and it's hilarious in the movie. Find it and watch it. Ghost, Demi Moore, Whoopi Goldberg. But there was this energy of creating boundaries where she's in a room, in theory, by herself. But once the ancestors learned that she could hear them, all of a sudden she's in a room that's crowded. So to the naked eye, to the person that witnesses the 3D, you're looking at her and she's sitting in the room and she's looking scrunched up. Her face is scrunched and she's just like, why are all of you here? And so somebody else will be looking at it going, there's something wrong with this woman. She's over there by herself, talking and looking around like she's having a paranoid experience. So I paint that picture for you to talk about boundaries, because when you're opening yourself for these visitations, and for someone like Evie, who is a medium, and others that see things or hear things, whatever your gift is, clairvoyance, clairescence, you're seeing things, you're hearing things, you can say, I only want to see things at this time. I only want positive energies coming towards me. I do not want to be interrupted if I'm doing this. I do not want you to interrupt conversations. Do not talk to me when I'm outside. Talk to me when I'm in my house. Do not have me walking down the street and somebody snatch me up, because now with our headsets and whatnot, people assume you are talking to someone, on your phone. But at the time of this movie, none of that technology existed. So as an espiritista, or a medium that hears things and sees things and has all the essences, all the clairs, you might have to set boundaries. And because when a portal is opened, not too woo-woo, not too scary, but really, like for me, I feel like my house, my home, all floors, they're blessed. Like human or spirit, only positive energies are coming in here, because that's a boundary I have created at the windows, at the doors, with different rites and rituals, energetically, spiritually clear that. And then when you're walking out of the house remains safe and my physical person remains safe. So I think those boundaries are really important that you, our listeners, can set. And before we close out, because I wanted to make sure
I have to add one more thing to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, this is, I guess the baseline of what we're trying to say is, you're not crazy if you're seeing signs, if you're feeling things, if you feel shifting in the energy after a beloved passes away. It's up to you if you want to go down the rabbit hole and learn about learn about the afterlife, learn about all these other things. Dionne and I are sharing our experiences.
Yes.
When it comes to an exchange with the spirit world and our 3D existence. And, again, it's not to make anyone scared. It's not even to make anyone believe what we believe. But we want to just let you know that you are not alone and you are not crazy if this is what you are feeling. So, and listen, throw us questions, share your ghost tales with us. And I say that in air quotes, right?
Yes.
Please, because I'm a geek for this stuff. I love all of it and all ass, and none of it scares me, because I have those boundaries that Dionne touched on, because I know how to protect myself from all of that. And I am the master of my destiny and my 3D experience. So last closing sentiments before we get to the Aché.
Take a moment, and this is not a toolkit for grief. This is a toolkit for life. The next thing I'm going to share is to look at yourself in the mirror, to look in your eyes and say, I see you, I believe you, I trust you. I see you. I believe you. I trust you. Because at certain points and times, you may be challenged and an outward experience will like, that doesn't make sense. That, what's wrong with you? Yeah, it's just like this chatter of that feels uncomfortable. To just pause the chatter, take a moment with yourself while you brush your teeth. Most of us in the bathroom, there's a mirror where you brush your teeth. I see you. I believe you. I trust you. And allow those experiences. Because I think as I'm supporting people in the mental health challenges, not always grief, a part of the anxiety is born out of the disconnection and trust of self. And I think grief exacerbates that. So if we can develop certain habits in between actively grieving, they will support us once we are actively grieving, that we have a habit to see ourselves, to believe in ourselves, and to trust ourselves. And with that, I am complete, and I'm going to call on all my ancestors. I'll wait if you're ready.
I'm ready. That was beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you.
So our Aché moment, our beautiful listeners at home, we call in the names of loved ones, and always Siwe and Dasan are here. But I want to call in, I'm going back, the name that I know going back the furthest is Marie Frances Nesbitt. So this is my mother's grandmother. So that's my great grandmother. And I've only seen one picture of her. And I said, just feeling this lineage of the female energy. So I want to call in Marie Frances Nesbitt, and then my grandmother, Bianca Almeida Jackson Monsanto, and my grandfather, Leon Alfredo Monsanto, and his second wife, Beulah Monsanto. So my other grandmother, because both of those women love me. So there's an energy of the island of the Caribbean, and in calling their names and the experiences they lived through over 100 years ago, that I want to call forward that strength now. And I just want to acknowledge that I would not be here without them. And just calling the names of the ancestors that I don't know, that walk with me, that bring light, I want to give them Aché.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for that, Dee. It's so funny that you called in your grandparents, because that's where my Aché intention was coming into this episode today. And so I'll say their names: Carlos Manuel Canino and Margarita Canino Rivas. And those are my maternal grandparents. And because of the difficulties that I've discussed in a previous episode about my father, I don't know who my grandparents are, my paternal grandparents. But I want to bring Aché to their energy, because
Yes.
I'm here because of them. And then
Yes.
that led me down. I would love to send Aché to all of my ancestors that I don't know their names. Because we do stand on an army of these ancestors that are forces of energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Protect us, that watch after us, that
Mm-hmm.
deserve our thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
that deserve us to continue to be tethered to their energy.
Mm.
In luz and
Y
progreso,
progreso. Mm-hmm.
say Aché.
Ashe, thank you for that. And even though we're closing out, I want to add one more thing, because when you said that, that's something we both have in common. You met your father, you knew your father. I never met my biological father. So, but spiritually, I felt when he passed and confirmed that. So I'm going to call in his name, and I know your father has passed. So let's call
I'm
their
not
name.
sure. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
we did talk. Sorry. Mi
I'm
paucho.
not sure.
Sorry. So I'm going to say all the ancestors. What was say the ancestors of his name? So we are calling in the ancestors of our biological fathers, just to give them a name. The ancestors in the line of Franklin Lewis. Thank you. I would not be here without your energy. So to his
That's beautiful.
parents and all of them. So the same for you. I call that in for you too.
Pull in the energy of the ancestors in the lineage of Jose Luis Dávila.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love you so much, Evie.
I love you too. Till the next one, my love.
Until the next one. Luz y progreso.
Luz y progreso. Aché.
Aché.
We'd love for you to join the conversation with us on Instagram at 2, that's the number 2, mothers, 1, the number 1, Aché Pod. And produced and distributed by Merrick Studios.
Until next time, may love carry you through.